Would you be quiet? We're on air. That is Moses Kuria for you, and thank you, Rose, and of course, welcome to Punchline. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana.
Thank you.
You are the President's MP, and you're on the record saying that the Jeshi or the voters of Central Kenya were not happy and that they felt neglected at some point. Is there a rebellion against President Kenyatta in Central Kenya?
I wouldn't call it rebellion, but I think Central Kenya has got a legitimate right to voice their concerns, just like any other region from this country.
And what's not working?
At that particular point, you find that there is a lot of promises, a lot of projects on the pipeline, some projects on the ground. Remember, I sit on the budget committee, so I know which projects were funded. Then you find they were sluggish. And you recall that right after my speech, probably a month, the president did issue Executive Order number 1 of 2019, which created the coordination role, and the subcommittee that is chaired by CS Matiang'i, the PSS committee that's chaired by PS Kibicho, and going down to the counties, chaired by the county commissioners. And that did make a lot of difference. I can tell you there has been a lot of momentum since January. I'm very proud.
Okay, and so how would you describe the mood on the ground now,
I think the hope on the development side, we seem to be picking up, on the projects, especially on infrastructure. Lots of projects. We are extending now the dualling of the Thika Road from Keno all the way to Isiolo. We've got another road we call Mau Road, cutting across Kiambu, Murang'a all the way to Nyeri, some roads connecting Murang'a to Nyandarua. So there has been some palpable, improvement on the infrastructure side. Not so much on other sectors like water. Water is still a big problem, and a serious problem of underinvestment in water. And clearly, compared to other regions, we've been talking about Kimorel and Arol, 60 billion shillings down there. The work is just our neighbors in Ukambani, around 40 billion. We've got Itali Dam on the other side of the Central Rift, 20-something billion. I've got Temususu Dam. Compared to our region, nothing. Only now we have got one Karimino Dam, which has been on the works for 10 years. But if you look at the stock of water projects which have been, procured but not financed, then you wonder what was the essence of that procurement. Nyeri County, for example, we've got another Karimeno in Nyeri, another Rumoro in Nyeri. 10 years ago, 11 years ago, those projects were procured. We have got Malago Dam just here in Murang'a. We've got Mara Dam in Tharaka-Nithi. These projects were procured, and we have seen the workers come and bypass us. We've seen the Kimoleos and the arrows being fast-tracked, and this is leapfrogging of our region. And those are things that are not lost on people, especially given that it is from our water towers, our catchment areas, that we feed Nairobi with water. So people are asking... But
that's a national resource.
It is a national resource, but are we not part of the nation?
You are, but I think the problem that has been there with the politics that has come around these development projects is, when terms like that are used, as if it is the ownership of a community, or that there should be some sort of community balance in how projects are done.
There should be in terms, you cannot
Should an investment be made where it is most necessary, not dependent on, some sort of balancing act between regions?
Okay, let's say that was a woman in Murang'a who is seeing water come from Makomboki, come all the way to Nairobi, and she's having a mutungi to the river, and she's just a neighbor to the dam, or to where we have got the tunnel. Can you look at her in the eye and tell her it's about balancing? You cannot gainsay the fact that we are human beings, and people have got feelings. When you have got a county like Murang'a without water, a county like Nyandarua without water, and that water is coming to Nairobi, when they see us, they think we're taking their water.
Why do you think that has been the way these projects have been run or done?
Well, I think two things. One, politically speaking, because of the seeking of Jubilee re-election or the president's re-election, So a lot of emphasis was given to some areas within the first term. Second reason is some politicians in this country, maybe there were more people who are in power, top echelons of power, who are more aggressive in pushing for the regions.
You're talking about the deputy president?
Why not Minister for Water? Why deputy president? I don't want to get into that. But I'm just saying that some people from
no, it's
other
a question.
regions,
I mean, if that's not who you're talking about, then just
well, it is true that the deputy president did push for his area. He did push for Kimorel, naturally. He did push for Arol. He did push for Chemususu. He did push for Itare. Yeah?
And you're saying the president
and other people are also pushing for Duake in Unkambani. The other people are pushing for Mzima too in the Coast region.
And no one was pushing for Central?
Yeah, because naturally, the president is the president for the whole country. So I think also the fact that he could not aggressively push for his region, I think other people also took advantage and pushed for regions.
And so you do agree that the president needs to be in some ways removed from that as a symbol of national unity?
I do agree, yes.
Right, and so it's not, you don't
it's not
think
him as a
failure.
person, it's not him as a person, not his failure. But his failure or not his failure does not remove the anguish among the region where I come from for asking for these things. And we were very sparing for the reason I said first, that we were sensitive and conscious to the fact that we needed to get the president re-elected. And so therefore, sometimes even when we were suffering, we could look at the big picture, so to speak,
But he's not up for re-election now.
He's not for re-election. That's why we're hoping now we do the right thing, that we get some sense of equity.
But there is also the fact that, we have devolution and that you have devolved functions, you have governors, you have counties who have been given monies, including also members of parliament who have money. So why would this conversation not really push the elected representative with money to deliver on those projects, many of which they would promise when they were campaigning, right?
Let's get this right. And I've heard this argument. This year, the highest in history, CDF allocation is 41 billion. This year, after negotiation, counties are getting 316 billion. Aror and Kimorel combined was somewhere in the region of 60 billion.
Correct.
So 5 Aror Kimorels is equal to devolution. Just 5. Just 1 Aror Kimorel is 50% more than all the CDF of 290 constituencies. So we need to ask ourselves, what money, when we say that MPs are getting money, 100 million plus, which is a lot of that probably goes to bursaries and stuff like that, to build 1 kilometer of tarmac costs 45 million shillings. So if, even for example, we say, let an MP build a road, it's just 2 kilometers.
But this project, I mean, the government comes up with a budget, it comes to Parliament, budget committee can be sent back if you don't agree with the pricing, the costing and things like that. Why wasn't this happening in Parliament?
No, pricing and costing is another issue. I think we're talking about equitability here.
Including that, if you didn't agree with it.
And I think we've had...
why should that budget have passed
we've been very respectful to the executive, Anne. We've been very sparing and respectful. By the way, I sit in that committee. You'll be shocked that in this year's budget, the one we're discussing now, out of a budget of somewhere, is it 2 or 3 trillion, we only achieved 10 billion. We only, tinkered with 10 billion shillings only, out of deference to the executive. But now time is coming.
Is it about deference or is it about doing the right thing? You kind of shot yourselves in the foot to begin with, didn't you?
We have had this belief, especially as a Jubilee member, that the budget that comes from the executive is sacrosanct, that as much as possible, don't try to change it. And that really has hampered. It has hampered our role as we say that budget making process is a parliamentary process within a presidential system.
And that should be an independent...
So that difference has really hampered on our ability to, to scrutinize. And I am saying that for a fact. I'll give you an example. Now, we are in Q2 of financial year 2019-2020. Already, as the Treasury is loading money into IFMIs, without coming to Parliament, already they have either so-called rationalization of budgets. They have already cut some of the budget. I was checking on the budget for example, public universities by 75% without coming to parliament. Yeah, and you know, it's something I've picked up with the CS for Treasury, and I've talked to my colleagues in the budget committee, and I've told the CS, no, it's not going to be business as usual going forward. No, not anymore. Why? Because let's look at the budget making process. It's very elaborate. Yeah, very, very, you know, very well laid out in our constitution. That we start in January with passing the budget policy statement. That is a document which we discuss and we say, generally speaking, these are the areas that we are going to fund. And in January, then Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury, Henry Rotich, came to Parliament, and he gave us that document which must be tabled by 15th of February, according to the Constitution. And he said, this is my budget policy statement. These are the areas I'm going to spend money on. I am being driven by Vision 2030 on one hand, and the Big Four. So my budget is already aligned to the Big Four.
So you've learned a lesson, is what you're saying, Moses.
Absolutely, I've learned a lesson. Well, just take this case. Now, by that end of April, we pass the estimates for the budget. Somewhere now in September, just in September, we pass the finance bill, showing how we are going to raise that money. When we come now to start implementing, Treasury says, no, I want to rationalize. I want to align to the Big Four. But that's a process that should have started.
You think the executive has been taking you for granted?
I think for granted, yes.
All right.
I think for granted.
And so it's time to flex your muscles.
It's time to flex our muscles, and it's time to, because for heaven's sake, we sacrifice all our time to work with the executive. You know, these are very collaborative effort between the executive and Parliament. And we stop all our lives to scrutinize every other document, the budget policy statement, the debt management strategy statement, the estimates, the finance bill. Then and
you have the feeling that you did the same during the campaigns, isn't it? That your lives stopped to campaign for President Kenyatta, and that you got the raw end of the stick.
As who now?
As Central Kenya members of Parliament.
Well, I think that historically other regions have benefited more than us.
You know,
it is a fact.
Okay.
Other regions in the political gerrymandering. Other regions have ended up benefiting more than us.
So other than water, what else would you say that Central Kenya residents are disenfranchised about?
Of course, the other thing is the economy generally.
Is the economy.
So you know, there's two sides of things.
You think the president has lost touch? He's not hearing what the ground is saying anymore?
I think he's hearing, but you know, government is an elephant, my friend. Government is an elephant, and you know, the president alone may have the goodwill and he may want to do the right things, but you know, it's time to look also at the people who are entrusted to do the job, and some of them,
you think, are failing him.
They are failing him, and I've said it before.
For instance,
we are not getting to specifics of people.
Why not?
But I think if I was a
you've
cabinet
talked about
secretary,
you're dealing with the Treasury now for the unilateral action. So that's Kuria, who we've talked about.
Well, you can't say about Kuria, but he's been there only. In fact, he's a caretaker, cabinet secretary.
So Henry Rotich, you blame Henry Rotich for that? I
blame everybody in that particular Treasury for really, because our economic thinking is wrapped up. Our economic planning is wrapped up. The way we look at things, the way we look at the multiplier effect. Sorry, I'm just saying.
Right.
If I was in that Treasury, I would do things 100% different.
And we'll talk about
from how it is being done.
The economy a little later. Let's talk about the economy later in detail, because you have talked about it and the issue of jobs, which of course is dear to many people. You had said on a television interview that a majority of Mount Kenya MPs are now supporting the deputy president. I believe you quoted the figure of about 60%. Do you still believe that? Do you believe the disenfranchisement is also leading to more people in the region supporting the deputy president? Or do you think, people are just committed to handshake one, as it were?
Now, let me say this is a very interesting question. It is true. The bulk of the members of parliament from Mount Kenya region are supporting the deputy president. 2 days ago, we had this vote on one of our colleagues in the 11th parliament, former member for Isiolo, who was being shortlisted, for the National Lands Commission. And it was a sad day for me, and looking at exactly how divided we are. And even what they wanted, they didn't get, because they were even divided among themselves. And the former opposition was solidly united. And I'm sure from where my good friends Raila Odinga and William Ruto are, they must be laughing, they must be having a blast, a time of their life. You know, looking at a region so endowed in terms of political strength, in terms of many other issues, but now horribly divided. It's a pity.
By what?
No, you know, this so-called Kiereweke and Tanga. And you can see, maybe you're right to some extent. Some of them, most of them, from what I discern, are saying that, you know, they are going to where they find love. They find that they don't find love.
So the deputy president loves them?
Oh, I think he showers them with...
With what?
With enough love. Yeah?
And by that you mean what?
Well, maybe attention and airtime, you know, gives them attention. Yeah? Well,
you mean access and finances? These are things
I don't know about financing. And I've heard this so-called thing that our MPs are given envelopes. I've never seen that, and I don't think that our MPs are of such low calibers would be given, you know, 50,000 shillings as it's claimed. But definitely the deputy president is there for them. And you know what?
Do you think the president is being sort of inaccessible to
you know, let me just be honest. It's not about accessibility. It is a lack of alternative mechanisms. You know, I was in this government during Kibaki's time. I was behind, you know, the wheels, you know. And during Kibaki's time, even if you don't get to see, but then nobody bothered to look for Kibaki.
What do you mean by alternative mechanisms?
You see, like now, the office of the president that time, you know, Ambassador Mudaura.
Right.
Ambassador Mudaura, he could solve up to 70% of the problems. No, there was no need to look for Kibaki. I can't remember.
You didn't need to.
You know, I can't even, you know, I was there and I was with MPs and I used to even be an organizer for the parliamentary group meetings. I can't remember any one time that MP said, now we have to go and see Kibaki because you could see Mudaura and 70% of the problem is gone. Or maybe people perceived to be close to.
Who's blocking you from seeing the president, Moses?
I'm not saying, also I don't need to see the president. I don't know why people would want to see the president if things are working. I'm just telling you, in systems, there are some mitigations. And one of the mitigations is a strong government. You know, the central government, the government is the, you know, the center boards of government is in the office of, is in Harambee House. So if Harambee House was strong, if it was like the center of gravity for government. The chief of staff right now, you think? Chief of staff, PO Box, State House. Same problem. I think it is easier to see the president than the chief of staff. I think so. I think so.
So well, it cannot saying be. People are gravitating towards the deputy president, leaders of the region are gravitating towards the deputy president because of access number one and whatever you have called love. Yeah. Which I'm kind of afraid to even get into. Okay, fine.
But do you also, in terms of pushing for projects, they perceive that the deputy president will pick the phone and, you know, make some calls to push through a project. To push through projects.
Is that right, though?
No, well, there's leverage in government. What is our job? Our job is to push for development. Our job is to push for the levers of development, the wheels of development to move on. There's nothing wrong with that.
Central Kenya was Jubilee. Jubilee had a manifesto, pledges. Government said it's big for. Surely then these elected leaders should know that that is where their development is catered for. That is the path they ran on.
But the document cannot implement. People implement. Okay?
True.
People implement. And I'm telling you, there has been a lot of discordance within the executive. That's why I like this new Matiang'i system, top to bottom. Now, for the first time, we're having meetings whereby people don't have to write letters to each other like boyfriends and girlfriends. You know, you used to be before, I can't do this water project because the forest people have not given the light of way. And then so you write letters from the desk of PS water to the desk of PS forestry. You wonder whether it's desks writing to each other. But now at least people are sitting together without writing letters. So we are going to continue, exerting some pressure until now we unclog. Forget about, we are living in a budget restraint, in a resource restraint era. But even within the ritual that we have, I think if everybody does what they are meant to do, we can move this country forward.
Does Central Kenya need to democratize?
It is democratized, by the way. We go for elections every 5 years. Yes.
No, I mean not vote in, kind of this herd mentality, vote as a bloc. You hear people like Isaac Ruto, he was on the program the other day, very much saying that, that needs to happen in the Rift Valley.
To democratize? Well, I think by our nature, Mount Kenya people vote as a bloc. That may be within our DNA. I don't know how you can democratize DNA.
And so do you believe that they are still 100% behind President Kenyatta?
They are
if he
behind.
was to say, let's vote this way in 2022, that would go?
I am not sure of that, because also our people are good at moving by a face. A face comes, a face goes. Moi was there, Moi went. Kibaki was there, Kibaki went. By the way, and also our people, I think also because we have not had a culture. You know, you didn't hear Kibaki tell people vote this way or that way. So I doubt.
And you don't think the president should do that?
Well, 9 out of 10, I don't expect him to do that. You know, because, we live by that, whereby we are loyal to our leaders and we respect them. And when the time comes, because also remember, our people make the decision. You know, in 2011, we had Mother Karua. We had Peter Kenneth. We had all these people who would have wanted to be this or that. We had Paul Moite. People stood up and said, no, we want Uhuru Kenyatta. Unanimously. And there's no meeting, not in Kirigiti, in Kiambu, or Ringu, or whatever. It is spontaneous.
Is Mount Kenya ready for Raila Odinga, as Anwe Guru put it?
I am not sure that Mount Kenya people have come to ask to consider that who they are going to vote for. But what do you want, truth or the cousin of the truth?
Truth, please.
Tough sell.
Tough sell.
Tough sell.
Why?
Tough
He
sell.
shook hands with President Kenyatta.
I wonder the same sometimes.
Come on, Moses.
I wonder.
Don't beat about the bush.
No, I wonder. I ask myself why.
Does that say something about the region?
I don't know. You cannot. Not everything in politics you can explain. Like that one. There's no possible explanation.
So if there's a game plan for 2022, as they talk about a handshake lineup that includes Raila Odinga either being fronted for, president or premier, you think the executive should rethink that plan?
Tough sell. And by the way...
Not happening.
By the way, I've heard also people talk about parliamentary system. That's whatever. Maybe that's what scares them most about that so-called lineup. Because, we are disadvantaged. We have got 64 constituencies in 10 counties. And I'm saying all the way up to Nakuru. If you look at the Mount Kenya, people of Mount Kenya descent where they are. In 10 counties, what we call 10 plus 3. Because we've got the 10 counties of Nakuru, Laikipia, Central Province, and Eastern, Embu, Meru, and Tharaka Nithi. Right. Then we have got a sizable population in Nairobi, Kajiado, and even we have got an MP in Lamu. With all that and 6 million votes, we have got only 64 constituencies out of 290. And unless that is redressed,
it's also going to be an issue.
It is a big, big issue. So every time they hear about Raila Odinga, they say, no, Raila Odinga want to bring in a parliamentary system. Our 64 votes in parliament, in constituencies, do not account for much. So they think it is the loss of their historical advantage.
Wow.
Or historical core competence.
And let's talk about
competitiveness.
Let's talk about that after the break. Moses Kuria saying Raila Odinga is a hard sell in central Kenya, a region that is getting quote-unquote love from the Deputy President. We'll talk more after this.